All right, if you just joined us, it's still Journalist Hangout. I still have Majid Jamia and also BKO. So let's move straight to our next conversation. A mixture of optimism and skepticism is trailing the planned release of Nigeria's rebased gross domestic product. But the federal government insists that rebasing its GDP and inflation data will enhance policy accuracy and capture changes in certain sectors of the economy to boost investor confidence. So joining us for more insight on this issue of rebasing Nigeria's GDP is the Statistician-General of the Federation, Adeyemi Adeniran. Adeyemi Adeniran, so thank you so much for joining us on Journalist Hangout.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. Good evening, viewers.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. So let's start this conversation this way. From the global perspective, GDP rebasing is supposed to happen every 5 years. But better late than never, they say. But the big question is...
Please, if...
Go. Can you hear me?
Sorry if I may correct... Yes, sorry if I may correct you here. What we have released now is the rebasing of the consumer price index, not the GDP. We are still working on the GDP rebasing. So we are here for CPI rebasing. Please.
We understand, sir. But we know that you are working on that. We are not going to be asking you questions that assume that you have made the release. You know, but Nigerians also need to know why it is important at this time to have the GDP rebased, and we want you to speak to that as an aside. We are going to be talking basically about the CPI, but we also want you to make Nigerians see the sense in doing this rebasing of our GDP. We understand clearly that you have not released it. So, can you
go very much, the question is, so basically the question is talking about that, why is the GDP, rebasing Nigeria's GDP, why is it important? Enlighten us.
Okay, thank you very much. As we all know, the economy of any nation is not static. The economy is always dynamic.
Okay.
Sometimes you have growth, sometimes you have recession, sometimes you have stagnant within the economy. There is also advancement in technology. There is globalization of the economy, transaction, trade, foreign trade transaction between the Nigeria and other part of the world. The issue of Russia-Ukraine that happened in the past. The issue of innovation, new technology that are changing the pattern and ways of which products and items in the economy are being produced. So because of this, we have the consumption of consumers changing over time.
Okay.
And investors, companies also changing their product in order to suit the consumers in this light. On the basis of all this, there's always a need to do a comprehensive examination of the status of the economy from time to time, so that you can reflect all these changes, all these happenings that are interacting within the economy, so that whatever figure you are giving in terms of structure, in terms of the size of the economy, will reflect exactly what is currently happening to that economy. If you leave it for too long a time, you will be reporting on the figures of the economy, either in terms of the size or in terms of the component, the structure of the sectors that constitute that economy in a wrong way. And you know how important it is for government to make policy, to implement programs that will elevate the, improve the standard of living of the citizens. So to that extent, it is always important to make the base upon which we are giving this figure to the government, to private sector, to investors, and even to individuals, a correct situation of all the happenings within an economy.
All right.
It is in that light that we are moving the base year for our GDP from 2014 to 2019. But the process of doing that, we are still working on it. We have had a series of engagement from different stakeholders, and they have been giving us very valuable input, which we are still working to improve and see that we have very accurate GDP that we can report for the country.
All right, finally on the rebasing, when Nigeria's GDP is rebased, what are the expected outcomes?
So when the GDP is finally rebased and the figures are released, the expected outcome is that we are going to be given a true picture of different sectors of the economy in terms of the contribution to the GDP, in terms of the structure, the new structure that we are going to have in our economy, so that government can better target their development plan, policy that will lead to development better than the way we have it. Because we are going to be given the correct situation of each of the sectors and activities within the economy. This is also going to be useful to investors. You can now see new areas coming up that have potential for growth. And then investors that are looking for where to put their money, we have information on where they can invest such money. I think these are some of the outputs that we expect to see when finally we have the GDP rebasing out.
All right, so let's talk about the consumer price index now. Now that inflation has dropped from 34.8% in December to 24.848% in January, how would you explain the rationale of this figure, especially when the majority of Nigerians think that prices are going up?
Thank you very much. Let me please make a very good clarification here.
Please do.
The inflation rate, or CPI, does not drop from 34.8 to 24.48. The 34.8 that we released in December 2024 was based on old base year. We have been cumulating inflation rates since 2009 up to December 2024. That 34.8 is based on that old base year of 2009. But we have changed that base year to a more recent base year now, which is 2024. So we are comparing the prices of goods and services in 2025 January to January of 2024. You can see that the base year 2024, of which we are comparing the prices of January 2025, is a more recent year, and that can give you the true inflation rate and inflation pressure within the economy, rather than taking prices in January 2025 and go back to 2009 January and be comparing the prices with that. So we have done well to bring this base year very close to the year that we are computing now going forward. And people are saying, why did we choose 2024 as the base year? There are criteria that we need to follow in choosing the base year. Base year is not an arbitrary year that you just choose or you decide to choose on your own. Whenever you have a new series of inflation, the first price that you are computing, or the first inflation that you want to release, if it is, for example, in 2023 that you are releasing your first rebasing price, inflation rate, the base year must be the 12-month average price of previous year. For 2023 example that I'm giving, that means the base year price reference period, which is the base year, will be in 2022. Because the first inflation rate that we are computing with this new base year is in January 2025, then the base year, the price reference period, which we also call the base year, has to be in 2024. That is the rule that is being followed by all the countries of the world, and that's the standard. And people are saying, oh, in 2023, there are a lot of policies that spur prices to go up. And that in 2024, the prices manifested well and so high. So when we are talking of base year again, it is better when we are looking at year that is relatively stable. The 2023 recorded a lot of volatility in terms of prices of goods and services in Nigeria. But if you look at 2024, especially towards the end of the year of 2024, we have started seeing some moderation, some standardization in the prices of goods and services. So first, the rule says a year before your first release of the inflation rate, you have to choose that. That's why it is 2024. That's the technical component. And then when you look at stability within the price variance, you will see that 2024 is more stable than what we have in 2023. These are the reasons for choosing 2024 as the base year. So the issue of inflation dropping from 34.8 to 24.48 does not arise in this matter. We have a new series, we have new base year of 2024, and based on that base year, we have new inflation rate of 24.48 when we compare from January 2024 to January 2025. That is the rate of increase, general increase in the way in which prices are moving, either fast or slow.
Okay, Prince, from your...
And then when you say prices are generally high in the market, yes, the general price level of goods and services is a different thing from the rate by which these prices are moving up. Prices are going up, but it's not as fast as what we have in December. Okay. We can see that even in December 2024, prices of goods and services have started coming down. So it's the rate by which those movement of the prices is what we are measuring when we talk about inflation. So it's different from price level, general price level in the market, because inflation rate cannot go and change the market prices. But the rate by which these changes are occurring is what inflation is measuring.
Okay. From your previous explanation, Prince, we now know that lower inflation figures do not mean lower prices. What would be the implications of the new rate on policy formulation in our country?
Yes. These new rates that we have now first give us the true picture of what inflationary pressure is in the country, rather than applying policies towards cumulated inflation from 2009. So whatever we are measuring now, we are measuring accurately the inflation pressure within the economy. That is the first thing. Then secondly, we have information now, we have data that we can give government both for monetary policy formulation as well as even fiscal policy formulation. For CBN, they now know how to target inflation properly in order to tame it, because they are giving them current and correct inflation rate. To government, when we look at fiscal policy, they can also have the structure of activities or goods and services that are driving the inflation in the current period. And then government can target those activities or those group of goods and services that are driving the inflation, because we have true picture of how items are driving inflation now. Government had so many policies, formidable policies already in place. It should just help them to target this better now. And for individual, it will also be useful for individual to plan their expenses properly, because you now know that a particular item that you used to buy before, because of the increase, continuous increase in that prices, we have information in our basket of alternative items that consumer can also lean onto in order to meet with their purchasing power.
Thank you, sir. Each time the CBN, for example, says there's too much cash in the economy, they want to mop up. And an average man on the street will ask, where is the cash that they are mopping up? Now, what is the implication of this rebasing of the consumer price index to the ordinary man on the street? How will this impact on them? And what is also the implication? Of course, you have mentioned part of the implications for the Nigerian economy, I mean, attracting investors and stuff like that. New areas like fintech and quarries and stuff like that, that investors can look into. But for the average man on the streets, how will this impact them positively?
Yes, the average man on the street is not the one to make policy. It's not the one to implement program. Policy is by government, and government need accurate data to make effective policies. So by the time we provide this data, the new inflation rate, from time to time on monthly basis to government, and they are seeing the movement of prices in the economy, it will help government to target better. So if there is need to tweak some of the policies to suit what is currently driving inflation, government will be able to do that. The same thing goes for CBN. They will be able to target inflation better than they used before because of the old base year and the items that we have in the basket. So by the time government had good information, correct information, adequate data that will lead to good policy that can also lead to development in the economy, then the citizens, the ordinary citizens on the street, will begin to see that the prices of foods items are coming down because of the accurate data that we have provided for government to make policies, and also to strengthen the one that is already on ground. That will help to bring down food inflation. The same thing goes for transport. We all know that government has been investing in making sure that transport is affordable to the citizens. So providing the movement of inflation or the inflation rate on this particular item, which is the transport, to the government, we also help them to better address the issue of transportation apart from what they have been doing before. So it will strengthen that policy of government and all the programs, activities that they already have in place. If it is working well, it will show to the government that this is already working, the policy, the program are already working, inflation is already coming down in this particular item. And then they can now look at another item that is not yet properly addressed, either by policy or is not, attention is not yet focused on it. So all these guides that the data will be providing to government will help government to really address the targeting of inflation. And once inflation is coming down, the prices of goods and services are coming down, the purchasing power of the citizens will be improved, and then they can be able to have a very good living standard.
What are some of
so it will help eventually the citizens on the street.
Prince, what are some of the changes that you have introduced to your methodology that has helped you in terms of collating the right data? And are there some development partners helping you? Because over the years, people have come to be pessimistic about some of these figures when they come out.
So let me quickly talk about development partner first. There is no development partner that collect data for any country, especially in Nigeria. No, whether World Bank or IMF, they don't have enumerators, they don't have field offices where they can go to rural areas and start collecting data on behalf of Nigeria. So whatever data that we have is data collected by staff, by citizens of Nigeria, from Nigerian citizens. So it's our own data that we collected, that we analyzed to come up with this result. What development partner can do is to ensure that you follow the standard, is to guide you in making sure that the best practice is adopted and the standard methodology that is laid down for all the country in doing this kind of exercise are followed. And it's just by way of advice and consultation. It's not like they are even going to impose that you must follow whatever they are saying. This must be how it's going to be. But they can advise, they can support, and say this is the best practice, this is how it is done in other countries. And they are doing this because, as we all know, whatever result that we have, whether for GDP, whether for CPI, we are comparing with other countries. If we don't follow the best, the standard methodology laid down for the countries, or best practice that is internationally recognized, then the data from Nigeria will not be able to compare with other countries. So it is to that extent that we work with the development partner. But in terms of the data itself, we collected our data, and it's our citizens, our staff that collected the data, and we analyze it on our own. Then, in terms of what are the new things that we brought on board for this new rebasing, now we have more items in our basket, which is more reflective of the consumption pattern of citizens as we have it now. In the 2009 rebase that we are not using now, that old base year, the number of items that we have in the basket is 740 goods and services. Now, with this new rebasing, we have 960 items for which we are going to be collecting data. Also, we have a better structure or better weight of how consumption, how households spend their money among all the items that are available in that basket. So we have more information on the consumption pattern of the household. We can better inform policy formulation. In addition to that, before now, we are using paper to collect our prices every month. But now we have moved from paper data collection to digital data collection using a computer-assisted personal interview device, which we call CAPI device. So as the generator are in the market, we can locate exactly the market that we have assigned to them, and then we can also track whether they are measuring the goods and the items that they are pricing properly, so that when there is any mistake or any error observed, we can quickly reach out to them even before they leave that market, because as they are collecting the data, they are sending it to us at the headquarters, and there are people on standby that are checking the data on daily basis.
Okay, just before we let you go, just before we let you go, just tell us, when will the rebasing happen?
The GDP rebasing.
The GDP rebasing.
When
will the GDP rebasing happen? Just tell us.
Okay, so the GDP rebasing is almost getting to the finalization.
Okay.
As I said, we have quite a lot of engagement with different stakeholders, and we want to appreciate them because each time we have this engagement, they always give us valuable input that help us to go back and look at what we have done, so that at the end of the day, when we come out with the GDP rebasing, it will be a very correct structure of the economy, and the actual size of the economy will be given. Okay. And then, so we are still affecting this input from stakeholders, but we are almost done with that.
Okay. All right, thank you so much. I'm speaking with the Statistician-General of the Federation, IDME, Adeniran. Thank you so much for having this conversation with us.
Thank you for having me.
All right then. Okay, gentlemen, maybe BK, just maybe 10 seconds.
I can't wait. I can't wait for the basing of our GDP to happen.
Yes.
Let's see the size of the economy now.
The true, exactly.
I want to see how big the services sector is now. I want to see how big the agri sector is. The stories from Kaduna, billionaires, you know.
Yeah, when it comes to agriculture,
yes,
you talked about.
The stories from and other parts of Nigeria where cocoa is being grown. Farmers are now buying luxury cars. Farming is the real thing now. So I want to see how accurately. And also the creative industry as well. But anyway, thank you so much, Majid Jami. Appreciate you for coming to the stage to have this conversation. BKO, thank you so much as well. And that's it on Journalist Hangout today. Join us